Good evening, race fans, to the hallowed crown of Talladega Superspeedway as we get ready for the season finale, season 51 of the RTG Talladega Challenge. Four drivers have made the journey of 10 regular season races, two playoff races with an elimination race, another two playoff races with an elimination race, and they've come into this season finale with a chance of being the champion. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Zach Freemount. And Zach, it's the season finale here tonight. The goal is simple for these drivers here tonight. It's basically be aware of where your other three competitors are. Oh, by the way, possibly in a three-wide situation at 180, 190 miles per hour.
Absolutely. You know, that's one of the most entertaining parts of the way that this playoff system is set up. Is it took a long 14 weeks to get to this point, but through those weeks we narrowed down the field after the regular season, and then we went through round one. We lost a couple drivers. After round two, we lost four drivers. So tonight, four will enter, one will leave the champion, and don't forget, Seth, we're actually working on trying to crown two separate championships tonight between the bracket series and the overall playoff series.
That's a great point, and how ironic is it that the two people that are battling in the bracket series, yeah, they just happen to be two of the drivers that are in the final four for this evening's event as well. We're going to be talking about those final four drivers momentarily, giving you statistics coming into this race as well. But first, we're going to talk with another driver that's out there, much like a number of drivers in this field. They just want to finish out the season with a trip to victory lane, and tonight we've got the driver number 77, Donnie Garrett. Hey, Donnie, it's Zach and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us? We'll try again here real quickly. Hey, Donnie, you got us up here in the booth?
I got you, bud.
All right, well, man, we've talked to you post-race quite a number of times this season. You've been oh so close to finding victory lanes. The last shot here tonight to get a season 51 victory. What are we looking to see out of that 77 car tonight?
Well, I tell you what, I started off good. I got the outside pole, and that's definitely my best qualifying probably ever. I ran a 44, which I'm usually about a 46, and I'm finding my way. I've been struggling all year, like we say, not a lot to do with me, but just wrong place, wrong time. But I tell you what, man, we're gonna have an awesome race tonight. These four drivers that are in this for this championship are well deserving. One of them's going to be a great champion. I'd like to see history made. I'd like to see Jessica win this thing. I think that'd be awesome. And, hopefully at the end I can find her and maybe push her a little bit. But, hey, you know what? I'm here to win, man. And as long as I don't mess those guys up, and I'm here to win this thing. And I promised Zach that I'd win one before the end of the season. So I got one shot to do it.
Hey, Dottie, how you doing? It's good to talk to you tonight. Hey, man, if I recall, I believe you have a certain nickname, which we haven't heard much at all this season. I'm not sure that we've called it at all during the broadcast. That would be Nature Boy, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, I'm the Nature Boy. Woo!
All right, Donnie. I was just gonna say I have a pretty good feeling. I know where that nickname hails from. But how long have you had that? How long has that stuck with you throughout your sim racing career here?
At least 15 years.
We got you. Well, hey, man, it's really good to talk to you as always. Like to see you get out there, get a victory. It's been a rough season for you. A lot of, just circumstance with being the super speedway here at Talladega. I know you're probably amped to go out there and put on a good show. Anybody that you'd like to give a shout out to before you go do that?
Well, first of all, thank you guys, man. You guys have done just an amazing broadcasting. We want to thank you for your time that you've done to help us, and give a shout out to all the owners at RTG, Terry, Prime, all those guys, and all the admin for all the work that they do, man. People don't realize how much time that those guys put in on these replays and stuff like that they got to go through. And we had a rough one last week, and then the week before, of course, we had caution free. But I think you'll see a lot of give and take tonight. We tend to, in these races, we tend to really kind of help these guys. We don't want to be the one that causes the wreck for them, but it's still going to be a good race. Like I say, those guys just got to mind their P's and Q's and take care of themselves early.
Well, he may be the Nature Boy, but he's certainly not the dirtiest player in the game. That's Donnie Garrett. He'll be rolling off from the outside the front row. Best of luck to you, Donnie.
Thank you, bud. Woo!
And these drivers are just moments away from gridding up here at Talladega. So the 4 drivers, if you just joined us here tonight, that are battling for said championship, we've got Joe Dispirito. He comes into tonight, the defending champion from season 50. He's actually looking to be the first back-to-back champion since Brian Schilling did it all the way back in seasons 46 and 47. Bob Seminara comes in, a 3-time champion, winning the championship most recently 2 seasons ago in 49. Grant Wesley, this is the 3rd time that he's appeared in the Final Four. Season 43 was the highest he finished, 2nd in the point stands. And as Donnie alluded to, Jessica Shelton's kind of the underdog story here tonight. 2nd full-time season, makes it into the Final Four for the first time in her career last year. Just barely missed out on the playoffs, finishing 14th.
Yep, and Jessica, she's put on a lot of good shows out here, a lot of really strong efforts on her behalf. She's run into a little bit of trouble, which a lot of these drivers had throughout the season, but she's maintained that consistency really well, and it's translated into getting her into the Final Four, as well as that head-to-head matchup between herself and Joe Dispirito. Oh, by the way, Seth, Joe Dispirito, Jessica Shelton, the first 2 cars on the inside row on the starting grid.
Yes, they are. And Dispirito actually lining up for his league-leading 11th pole of the season. I mean, talk about statistics. Only 4 races did he fail to start on the inside of the front row, and in most of those races, he usually started on the outside of the front row. So this 24 had his qualifying efforts on par this year, and we're going to have to see if it translates into a victory. Of course, Dispirito has won 3 out of the last 4 races during the playoffs.
Absolutely, and he's shown that he's been the really, really strong contender. Only 1 race outside of the top 10 this season, and that was after last week's Wreckfest out here at Talladega Superspeedway, which saw most of our playoff contenders end up in some sort of trouble, but it ended up ultimately being Grant Wesley who was able to keep his car clean to the end of the race and wrapping up that victory. So, Seth, a lot of cars starting here tonight. We've seen that translate into some really, really aggressive, fun racing, and we've also seen that translate into a little bit of trouble. What are we thinking for tonight?
Honestly, I don't know what to think, because when we had the first elimination race on the second playoff race, I thought we were going to see quite a number of wrecks with the fact there was so much on the line, whittling the field down from 10 to 8 drivers. We end up seeing a relatively calm race, very few cautions in that one. Then you translate to last week. I thought, well, maybe we're going to have the same thing happen here in playoff race number 4 that we did in playoff race number 2, completely polar opposite. As you mentioned, a number of caution flags, a lot of torn up machines. So coming into tonight's race, I'm kind of on the fence 50-50 of which way this is going to go. I think, to your point, a point you've made a number of times this season, if we can get to that first round of green flag pit stops, we're going to find out what sort of a tone this race is going to have.
Absolutely, and there's going to be a lot of tension involved throughout as those 4 drivers competing for the championship are 4 drivers that we've seen be very strong all season long here. And if we end up in a situation like we did last week, which saw many of the playoff drivers wrapped up in incidents, you don't know how the end of this race is going to ultimately play out. Again, it's going to be one of those things of you have to be there at the end, you have to be there at the finish.
Let's run you through your starting lineup here tonight. All 4 of your championship competitors going to be restarting this race up inside of the top 10, top 8 as a matter of fact. Dispirito on point alongside of Donnie Garrett. Jessica Shelton alongside of Bob Dixon in row 2. Row 3 finds Bernie Mobbs and Grant Wesley, last week's winner. Mark Paglia in row 4 with Bob Seminara, and completing the top 10 will be Josh Metallic and Jeremy Jeffries. Dave Melson alongside 2-time winner Tim Nofsker in row 6. Chuck McClure, who just missed out on the Final Four last week, he'll be 13th alongside of Rodney Sullins. Dante Ricky, another driver that was eliminated last week, he shares row 8 with Jeff Crivello. Chris Elliott and Ken Roberts going to make up row 9, top 20 completed by Wiley Coate and Wayne Pribnow. Brian Lavelle in row 11 alongside of Perry Bond. 23rd will be Sonny Tallman. 24th, Glenn Harris. Completing the top 25 will be Mike Rogers. Rest of the drivers that took time, 26th place Robbie Nisus and 27th Billy Elliser. Rest of the field is going to be rounded out by John Godfrey, Cy Jones, Stephen Martell, Andrew Miller, Richard Martin, and Hank Middleton. Looks like Bobby Farrell may miss the start here, but he will obviously be on track at some point in this race. 34 drivers going to take the green flag here tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, race fans, we've got the drama, we've got the excitement. 14 weeks of build-up to tonight's race. We are going to crown a champion. We are under green at Talladega as Joe Dispirito leads them alongside Donnie Garrett off into turns 1 and 2.
And who would have thought that in a type of race like this, there are going to be 32 X Factors out there? And I'm talking about the other 32 drivers that are not in the hunt for this championship. We heard Donnie Garrett say, if I can get to that 94, I'm going to try and help push her to the win. There's 31 other drivers here as well that are going to maybe be trying to help one of these championship four win this championship.
Absolutely. And at the end of the race, if they're still there and in contention, they still want to win just as badly as the drivers driving for the championship want that championship. So we'll have to see how this plays out. Again, it's going to be 66 laps of high intensity drama. We've already got slicing and dicing going out on there. We've got 3 wide, about 3 rows deep. Right now, Joe Dispirito still leading with the help from the 77 of the Nature Boy of Donnie Garrett into turn 1.
Now, you saw Joe Dispirito lead that lap. However, with this being the season finale, it doesn't come down to who accumulates the most points. It comes down to who finishes the highest of the championship four. So while obviously it's great to be out in front in case a wreck happens behind you, you're not going to be able to rely on bonus points here tonight.
Absolutely. And you see now that bottom line got the clear advantage over the very top line, which is led right now by the 94 of Shelton. She is now battling for about 8th position, but they are 3 wide with the 143 as well as the 56 of Jeff Gravello. And about 3, 4, 5 rows deep there, they're running 3 wide. It looks like they're still working on getting themselves lined up as the leaders have checked out about 8 cars, the advantage on the bottom line into 1.
Obviously, a long ways to go in this race. We've just gotten started, and on the top of that 3-wide situation, you got Jessica Shelton. Grant Wesley was in the middle of a 3-wide moments ago. He's now transferred to the bottom. If you're the 88 and the 94, back when Wesley was in the middle, do you cut your losses, kind of get yourself out of trouble, fall to the back, and then work your way back up to the front? Because, I mean, obviously to win this championship, you got to have that car in one piece.
Absolutely. And I don't think you really want to put yourself in a situation where, you could put yourself at risk. You have to keep this thing clean. You have to keep the fenders on it, because if you're not running at the end of the race, you can't run for that championship. So I think those guys are pretty much taking it pretty easy. We've seen a lot of give and take, even though they are running 2 and 3 wide. I think it's just going to be a matter of time. The longer the race wears on, the slower the patience will, be there to stick around.
3 wide again, this time for the 6th position. That's Jeremy Jeffries on the top. The bright yellow and green 84 of Dante Ricky in the middle, and Josh Metallic on the bottom. Saw a little bit of side to side there out of Bob Seminara. Certainly coming into a race where you've got a championship on the line, you don't want to be having internet connection problems.
Yeah, and we've seen this in previous races as well. And once again here, just, when that happens toward the front of the pack, there's a lot of cars behind you that are unsure if you're going to warp all the way across the racetrack, if you're going to blink out and reappear, because when that happens, you lose the draft of that car in front of you. So if that car blinks back in, at a much lesser pace than what the rest of the field is running. We saw it, I believe it was week 3 of the season, where it caused a big wreck. So these guys trying to give him a little bit of space out there right now.
Here comes the top side. It's Jeremy Jeffries leading Tim Nofsker, along with the 17 of Chuck McClure. We've seen this alliance before around the midway portion of the season, and these 3 are going to move that second groove to the front. So all of a sudden, just like that, the inside line, which had the advantage for the first 4 laps, they're starting to drift back.
Absolutely, and I think they've just kind of fallen apart just a little bit. It doesn't look like they're running as tight as they were, but again, you have to take into consideration the instability of that 712 car. So when that bottom line lost that momentum, that translates over to, probably a lap's worth of momentum loss before you can actually build that back up and start making runs again. And I think Jeffries and Nofsker saw that as the perfect opportunity to push just a little bit harder, and they came around them with quite a bit of speed.
Talked about drivers that would love to finish out the season with a W. How about Wayne Pribnow up there in the 4th position, that 00, currently riding the tire tracks of the Jack Daniels Chevrolet of Chuck McClure. As we're watching this battle side by side for 5th, and you mentioned about there being 2 championship on the line here tonight. Last week, Jessica Shelton finished higher than Joe Dispirito, and so therefore, the 2 of them are basically neck and neck for the Bracket Series Championship. Whoever of the 2 finishes the best here tonight will be the Bracket Series champion.
And that's so cool to see for Jessica. And I know she had to come in here really excited about her opportunities because she is the only driver that's in this top 4 in the playoffs right now that doesn't have a victory. But that you got to kind of put an asterisk against that because the other guys, they took basically all the wins away, but she was the most consistent of the other competitors that were out there on the field. And I think as long as she can stick with him, by the time the race ends, you might be able to make some moves because you never know what line might have the advantage if you'll be in it or if you'll run into trouble at the end and be able to keep it clean and, just outlast your other competitor.
Yeah, 3 wins for Joe Dispirito, all 3 of them in a row. 3 wins for Grant Wesley, the most recent last week, and 2 wins for Bob Seminara, who is dropping back. That side-to-side continued there, started to get a little bit worse. So he's doing the gentlemanly thing, dropping to the back, waiting till it settles out. But at the same time, he's losing positions to his other 3 championship competitors. But still, again, a long ways to go in this race.
Yep, and another car that I'm seeing with a similar issue right now looks to be the 55 of Sonny Tallman. It seems to be really intermittent. It's not all the time, but every once in a while in the middle of the corners there, you'll see that car wiggle side to side there. And again, that really throws off the drivers behind you because you don't have the confidence that you can get up to the back bumper and give them that push without something wild happening and causing, just chaos out there on the racetrack. So everybody just trying to take it easy at this point. You see the entire field at this point is pretty single file, so I don't think anybody's looking to get too racy. You'll see we'll have another line here forming up here relatively quickly, but right now everybody just trying to be as careful as possible here. A lot on the line.
Right now we're looking at the 88 of Grant Wesley, as we said, last week's winner that locked him into the Final Four, but Grant's had a kind of up and down playoffs. The first round of the playoffs, races 1 and 2, really dismal finishes, both outside of the top 20 if I recall, and then the last 2 playoff races, he finished in 3rd, and then he won. So the momentum definitely on the side of that 88 machine. It's just a matter of which side of the momentum is going to be here tonight in the finale. As mentioned, only 2 drivers come into this race of the Final Four championship winners, that being Dispirito and Seminara. Wesley and Shelton both looking for their first Tally Challenge championships.
And I think it's entirely possible that we could see a first-time champion here tonight, despite the speed and the ability of the 24 and the 712. We know they can get it done. They've got championships under their belts, but it's not out of the realm of possibility with as unpredictable as this style of racing is. That come the end of the race, those guys might be fighting just as hard as what Wesley and Shelton are right now.
Up here at the front, you've still got Jeffries, Knopfsker, McClure. And then Wayne Pribnow lined up 1st through 4th. Car looks a little antsy back there. Is that 24 of Joe Dispirito. He's trying to figure out which lane he wants to make the move in, whether he wants to go low or go high. That 00 looks a little unsteady there, 4th in line. We'll see if the 24 is going to continue to ride behind him, or will he say, hey, Donnie Garrett, Mark Paglia, guys behind me. Let's make a second lane here and see if we can move to the front.
Yeah, and we still have about 8 or 9 laps until we would reach the point where these guys would have to make green flag pit stops. But honestly, Seth, I can't see them staying single file that much longer. As we see right now, you look kind of farther back here at the 39 of Josh Metallic. I think he's running in about 13th place. He's trying to lead that charge and run just a little bit higher than what the cars ahead of him are. He's got the help of the 6 of Wiley Coat, as well as the Hank Middleton machine and the number 2. But those guys in front of them, that's just such a big line, and they've still got the cars on the inside of them that they're trying to contend with here as well.
But the thing that's going to work for them is if they can make just a little bit of progress, those drivers on that inside line, they'll start to see that outside line forming and moving forward, and then they may jump up there. So the numbers game may change from the inside to the outside. That 56 of Crivello keeps looking like he wants to peek up there and help that outside line.
Yeah, I'm seeing that too. But another thing that we're seeing, we didn't see it so much last week, but the thing we saw, pretty consistently a few weeks before that is it looks like they're doing the middle line share thing again, where you can see both the 56 and the 39 are both between those dotted lines. That middle line is definitely the quicker of the two, especially when you have a lot of cars out there. You can just carry the momentum, which you can't quite carry into and off the corners on the inside line. And here we go. We've got a car. Wayne Pribnow looked like he was going to try to make a look to the outside, but Dispirito did not go with him. So Pribnow is now going to get shuffled out falling back. It looks like he's trying to go as high as possible to give those cars with the metallic machine enough room. Pribnow might have just brushed the wall there out of 2.
Yeah, and I was getting a little bit worried there for Metallic, Wiley, Hank Middleton, because if the 00 had stayed up in the lane they were in, they were catching him so quickly that it was just going to stifle any momentum that outside line had. They've now been able to tuck in line single file, now currently scored around the 11th, 12th, and 13th position. We've got some double wide back here. Bob Seminara in the 712. Finally, his connection problems have settled out. He's trying to work his way back up to the front. He's back here with Brian Lavelle in the 43, Sonny Tallman pushing him there, Richard Martin back there in the 43. Now, another interesting statistic, 3 of the championship 4 that we have in the field tonight were actually part of the championship 4 last season as well. That was Seminara, Dispirito, and Wesley. The 4th driver, that 43 of Richard Martin.
And we've seen Richard Martin have a couple really, really strong runs here this season. But again, the thing that we keep coming back to with a lot of these drivers that just weren't able to make it into the playoffs was there was a lot of bad luck all season long. There were big sweeping incidents, as there typically are with super speedways, and just took a lot of guys out of contention. A lot of guys that, you would usually see win on these super speedways on a pretty consistent basis that, just weren't able to pull it off this season. Richard Martin being one of them, the 77 of Garrett being another one, Josh Metallic maybe most notably in that 39. So, but right now we do see that outside line. They are trying to make moves. It looked like Garrett was going to peak up in front of Crivello, maybe thought better of it as it looked like the 56 might have had just a little bit more speed, but they're trying to make moves on that inside line now. Next time by, there will only be 3 or 4 more laps until we're looking at green flag pit stops.
And I'll tell you what as well, we may have 4 drivers battling for the championship. The 6 drivers that got eliminated in the last 4 weeks, though, they still have something to race for as well. Drivers that get eliminated from the playoffs, their goal is then to, with the drivers they got eliminated with, finish the highest of those eliminated drivers. And if you're looking at the battle for 5th, Dante Ricci's only 6 points behind Bernie Mobbs. The battle for 7th, Chuck McClure, he's only 6 points behind Billy Elliser. And the battle for 9th, Josh Metallic's only 3 points behind Mark Paglia. So there's still some battles in the point stands going on, despite the fact they're not in the championship picture.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, despite wherever you might finish in the overall standings, if you haven't gotten that victory and you want it that bad, you're going to throw all that out the window to try to go for that win here tonight as well.
Now, we mentioned the fact we had a caution-free race here during the playoffs. That race was not without incident, and the first incident that happened in that race was coming to pit road. You mentioned it. We're just on the verge of these green flag pit stops. We've seen pit road play a factor into who's going to win the race. The question tonight is, will it play a huge factor into who's going to be the champion?
Well, and I think it very well could. We saw Bob Seminara, probably one of the most notable playoff incidents that we saw a few weeks back there, have a major incident coming onto pit road, pancake the nose of his car, still managed to help his teammate Joe Dispirito to the win, but it ended up miring him a lap down. So that's a position you don't want to be in at the end of tonight's race, because if you're a lap down, unless all the other 3 drivers around you are a lap down as well, that you're probably not going to be able to make a whole lot of ground off that.
We're about, maybe about a lap and a half away from when these drivers will be starting to make pit stops, and we're double wide, 7, 8, 9, 10, make it 12 rows deep here. So, actually, we've got some pitters already.
The 088 of Novsker, the 17 of McClure. I didn't catch who the 3rd car was. I do see a 4th car now entering pit road, but
Paglia
that's just...
and Elliott.
Paglia and Elliott. So just the 4 of them, they're going to need to have a really, really good pit stop. I think the logic behind, coming in before the rest of the field is pit a lap earlier, try to avoid any, pit in incidents, which could occur here under green. So I think they're going to be okay, especially if they can get hooked up coming back out of the pits. I'm not seeing any other hands waving right now, but I see Wesley makes a big move to the bottom of the track as well as Crivello. So maybe look for that 88 to make his way in this time by.
We'll see if Wesley's going to come to pit road. Side Jones in the 7. He was on pit road a lap prior. And, here comes the 88 to pit lane. He's bringing Jeffries, Dispirito. Stephen Martel through the grass. And now Jeffrey spins.
big contact with the inside wall. Again, incidents entering pit road. Green flag is still out. So who was able to maintain that momentum? That is the advantage that we were talking about with the last round of pit stops there with the 088 and only the 3 other cars that came in. They've now missed all that. The cars that lost time coming into pit road that time by with that incident, the 088 and company are going to have that much more of an advantage.
Not sure if you folks saw that, but Stefan Martel was over in the background of our screen, over in the tri-oval area, down the apron. He did get the car refired and has driven away, so green flag remains out. 3 of our 4 championship competitors were on pit road that time. Here comes Shelton along with pretty much the rest of the field, as now Perry Bond gets spun off the nose of Wade Prim. Now he collects Sonny Tallman.
Still no yellow 2 cars sitting at the entrance to pit road. It looked as though all of our playoff contenders were able to make it in clean and green as well. And we can confirm, Steph, still no yellow out on the racetrack. So these guys are still running for it. We'll have to see how positions will shuffle out here as the field gathers back up here.
Certainly going to be interesting, because I'm looking back at the incident that we had with the spinning machine of Jeremy Jeffries. The car that was right behind him at the time was Grant Wesley. So you have to wonder how long Grant Wesley had to maybe be on the brakes to avoid running into the spinning 8 car, and that may translate into some spots and track position lost. Right now, he's trying to latch on to this group of 3 of Knopfsker, McClure, and Paglia, but we're going to have to wait and see after that big group of cars comes off pit road where everybody cycles around, most importantly, our championship 4.
Yeah, and I think the cars that are just now coming out of the pits, those are going to be the cars that are in trouble. The rides of the 88, the 24, the 712, and the 90, who I saw all running together as well, I think they're going to be able to latch onto that draft pretty easily. They'll be able to catch back up to the 088 and company. But as we mentioned, Seth, it is Tim Knopfsker indeed, and those 4 drivers that came in that first time by that are now our leaders, as it would seem.
Yeah, Wesley, I think, just went around metallic for what would be 4th. There is Joe Dispirito and Bob Seminara. Right now, I think they would be scored in 8th and 9th. And right now, I think Jessica Shelton currently is back either in the 15th or 16th position, trying to get Glenn Harris up to her back bumper, trying to catch the draft of Dante Ricky to stay up in this lead group, which right now is only comprised of 3 drivers, but in a couple of laps, more than likely will be about 11, maybe 12 drivers.
Yeah, if I'm Jessica Shelton right now, I think I'm sweating just a little bit, because there's a lot of space between herself and the back bumper of the 84 up in front of her. And those drivers can't let off that much, because they're also chasing Bernie Mobbs, Bob Seminara, Joe Dispirito, who are all trying to chase the leaders right now. So the drivers at the tail end of this draft, they're really going to have to keep their foot in the floorboard. But I think those last 2 cars might be in trouble, Seth.
Have to hope that these drivers up here get side by side like this, because that'll help them just a little bit in stifling the speed that these drivers would have if they remain nose to tail. Grant Wesley, with the help from Josh Metallic, he's going to go to the point. 13 of Dave Melson also on that inside line. Jeff Crivello now in the mix, and there comes Joe Dispirito and Bob Seminara as the 11 of Mike Rogers comes back onto the racetrack there in the 11 machine.
So we see what exactly the effect is that green flag pit stops tend to have out here at Talladega. It's the same thing that we saw just a couple weeks ago, Seth, where incidents coming into pit road split the entire field up in segments. And if history tells us anything, we would hope that this lead pack right now won't have troubles again coming back into pit road, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that this gets fragmented up that much more with another round of pit stops.
Well, one of the drivers that did have problems with pit road was the 8 of Jeremy Jeffries. We're trying to find him right now because, according to our scoring, he is actually having to come in and serve a black flag. And as soon as I say that, he's actually brought his car back to the garage area. So tough break there for Jeremy Jeffries, a former winner from this season.
That is really unfortunate for Jeremy. We know he was working really hard to get himself in the playoffs after missing the majority of the season. Was not able to do so, but hard contact to the inside pit wall tonight. Couple that with a black flag, a penalty that he would have to serve, and the fact that we are looking at this point at no yellow flags as we remain clean and green as we work on to lap number 24 tonight here at Talladega.
You know, last year, Joe Dispirito won the championship, winning 3 races, including the season finale. But I don't know if you had the sense of this, but I kind of felt coming into this race, it wasn't going to be these championship 4 in a must-win situation. I think with all the drivers that we've seen in the field week after week after week, the likelihood of one of our championship 4 winning is rather slim. I think that tonight the scenario is finish ahead of your competitors.
I think you're going to be absolutely right, Seth. And while our championship competitors, they're running pretty good right now, they're all in pretty good shape, with the exception of the 94 at this point. We know that there's a couple cars, especially the 2-3 leading the field right now between the Novska machine, the McClure machine, and the Paglia machine that are also very capable of winning. So I think the Florida gang, they have themselves as their friends, but even in the closing laps, Joe Dispirito and Bob Seminara, they're not going to give anything up to each other because they're both going for a championship.
Absolutely. We've seen them work together, but then when it comes down to the final laps, it's every man for himself. You got a group of 4. They're about to go a lap down. That's Robbie Nisus, Bob Dixon, the 47 of Andrew Miller, and the 57 of Stefan Martel, who up until this point, despite his spin through the infield grass, had managed to stay on the lead lap. So now those 4, they'll be battling to see who would be in the 2 lucky dog positions should we get a caution.
Right, and it looks like also right now Donnie Garrett possibly losing the draft of that front pack, as we see he's now falling a little bit farther and a little bit farther behind. Now, I think it's going to help those 4 cars that they just picked up. That's going to help him maintain touch with the field. But I'm also curious if he might be dropping back just a little bit to help Jessica. We heard him in tonight's pre-race interview say he was going to do whatever he could to try to help her out and get her, potentially her first championship. It looks like the 84 of Dante Ricky, he has also dropped back from this lead pack, maybe trying to help her out. We've seen the 84 and the 94 work quite a bit together here this season. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. Will we get another yellow? Will we stay under green? Because if we stay under green with the amount of time that they're losing this lead pack, Seth, I'm not confident that just a couple cars dropping back are going to be enough at this point to help her catch back up again.
Yeah, the last time I looked, which was 3 laps ago, Shelton was running 7 seconds behind the race leader. She's now 11.5 seconds last time crossing the line. Now, she does have Glenn Harris, as well as the 11 of Mike Rogers. There's also a group behind them being led by John Godfrey, about a group of 4 or 5 machines. So that will certainly help the numbers. And as you mentioned, Dante Ricky looks like he's dropping back, Donnie Garrett as well. But it's going to take them time to get formed up here. And I just don't know, even if they can get 7 to 10 cars in this group, if they've got enough speed to be able to make up the ground that's already been lost.
I without major incident coming into pit road again, which might not result in a yellow flag again, as we've seen in the not so recent past here, or not so distant past here rather, I think they're going to be in trouble. I think they're really going to have to rely on some sort of yellow flag. But at this point, we see up through about the top 15 now, all running completely single file. They're not giving up any time on the racetrack, so they're not doing that second pack any favors at all right now.
Right now, Joe Dispirito sits in the championship slot, currently 4th on the track, but he's got Bob Seminara and Grant Wesley right behind him, and 5th and 6th. We also just saw the 7 of Cy Jones go a lap down, so currently 24 of our 31 drivers still on track are running on the lead lap. And I was watching that 84 of Dante Ricky, and I couldn't help thinking that Dante Ricky, his 2 wins this season were the first and last regular season races of the year. And we started out the year, very first race went caution free. Could we see a bookend season with caution free races?
I think we very potentially could. Am I confident that it'll happen? No. I have a feeling that we may end up seeing at least 1 yellow flag here tonight, which, and depending on how close it is to the end of the race, could translate into more than 1 yellow flags. But I'm not trying to jinx this. I'm not trying to hope that they don't run green flag, but there's a lot of race here to go yet, Seth. We got another round of green flag pit stops coming up, and we're not quite halfway through the race yet here tonight.
Josh Metallic had a great run there going into 3, got past Bernie Mobbs and alongside Jeff Crivello, but nobody went down there with him. So the Oscar Mayer Ford stuck on the bottom line, going to drift to the back of this lead group.
Josh Metallic is one guy that I can tell you for certain does not like riding for a long time in a single file. He wants to try to make moves. He wants to try to make things happen, but he does that with the understanding that that could also work to his detriment, especially on super speedways. But that's not going to stop him from trying. He wants to move forward, and when everybody is lined up like this, not really making any moves on each other, a lot of people don't take into account that can actually get, as a driver, get very uncomfortable because you're constantly anticipating, especially on super speedways, what's going to happen next. And the longer that anything takes to happen, it's almost like the more antsy that you get as a driver. So Josh Metallic just trying to get a little bit aggressive, hoping somebody would make the move out here with him, not working to his advantage right now.
And we talk a lot about when drivers run that inside line, they have to deal with the checkup, especially on the entry of the corner. But really, when you're lined up single file like this, it doesn't matter if you run bottom, whether you run top, whether you run the middle. There's going to be some checkup you're going to have to deal with.
Oh, especially in a big line like this. Our leaders are leading down into turn number 3 right now. Chuck McClure all over the back bumper of the 088 of Novsker. They are now hitting almost 200 miles an hour. It was definitely 199 on the telemetry heading off into turn number 3. But, you know, the 17 has to back off the back bumper of that 88 just a little bit so he doesn't turn him in the corner. And the cars behind them all have to let off just as much so they don't hit the car in front of them that's letting off as well.
We mentioned coming into tonight, both Joe Dispirito and Grant Wesley, 3-time winners this season. Well, Novsker's a 2-time winner, came up about 25 points short of getting into the top 20 to qualify for a playoff spot, but he certainly would like to make it a 3-way tie at the top of the leaderboard in terms of race wins this season.
Absolutely, and we know he's more than capable of doing so. We've seen him with the 17 especially. I think that's probably the most notable car. When we see that 088, he's usually got help from the 39 or the 17, and when the 3 of those cars in particular get together, they go really, really fast. But Tim Novsker doing what he does the best, leading the field here at Talladega.
Update on Donnie Garrett and Dante Ricky, who we saw falling back. They have now been reeled in by that second group. They've got about 8 cars in that second pack now, being led by the 94 of Jessica Shelton. The problem right now is not only is she nearly 15 seconds behind race leader Tim Novsker, but she's about 13 and a half seconds behind the last car in this pack, that being the 39 of Metallic.
Yeah, and there's still a ton more cars in this lead pack than what there are in that pack. The majority of our cars in our lead pack still running single files. We see them duck down to the bottom line, but it looks like Novsker going to fade up just a little bit going to turn 3. Not sure what the intention is here with as fast as they've been in that middle line. Not quite sure why you would make that move down to the bottom line, but it looks like that's what they're going to do right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see some side-by-side here within the next few laps here, Seth.
Yeah, we're still about 4 to 5 laps away from when these drivers have to start making green flag pit stops again. So to your point, not sure why they're right down there on the yellow line going into the corners, but they continue to do that through 1 and 2. We do have a second groove forming here. That's the lap machine of Andrew Miller trying to help Josh Metallic in the 39. Another lap machine and Robbie Knights is up in that second groove, but again, just not enough numbers up there to make any forward progress. Right now, Metallic alongside of Brian Lavelle. That is a battle currently for the 10th position.
Right, and something that I would like to point out here, Seth, you know, I mentioned a couple laps ago the telemetry, the cars in that middle line going into turn number 3 at the end of the back straightaway at 199, almost 200 miles per hour. On the inside line, that time by, they hit 198, but then dipped back to 197 before the entry to turn number 3. So to put it in perspective, we see the difference in those lines, and we've talked about how it is that the top line seems to have just a little bit more of an advantage over that bottom line, but it is a little bit longer of a distance around the racetrack as well. However, again, it comes back to that momentum that you're able to carry, and with 2 miles per hour more of momentum heading into the corner, that translates a lot to a lot coming through and off as well.
Well, if you're wondering who are going to be some of the first to start this second round of green flag pit stop, should we get to that point, look no further than up here at the front of the field, because Novsker, McClure, and Paglia were 3 of the first 4 that came to pit road to start the first cycle.
Absolutely. And another thing to note is they've been leading the pack almost the entire time. So their fuel consumption probably just a lap more or a lap shorter than what the cars behind them are. Not to mention they came in a lap earlier. So I would guess probably this time by Seth, if I was a gambling man, I would say we'll probably see those three on pit lane again.
Yeah, if not this lap, then definitely the next lap. And for Nofsker, it will more than likely, to your point, have to be this lap because he's been the one consuming the most fuel. He just a moment ago bypassed Jeremy Jeffries for most laps led in this race. Jeffries led the first 13. Nofsker has led the last 15 as they're double wide behind them still. And let's see. Nope, doesn't look like they're coming to pit road this time. So I think we're going to start to see some hands waving out the window on the back.
Oh, we got one blowing up. Dave Melson, I believe that is in the number 13. He's blowing up on the inside line. Seth, no caution as of yet, but now there is. Heading off into turn one, our first caution of the night, an engine expiration. Bad luck there.
Boy, that was right up there on the racing surface as well, which is why the caution was thrown. And talk about a big break for the 94 of Jessica Shelton. Needed a caution to happen. And aside from maybe a pit road incident bringing out a yellow flag, I wasn't seeing a caution flag come out in the near future.
No, but this is going to put the 088 in a very precarious situation. I'm not sure if the pace car is out on the racetrack yet. I do not see it in front of them, which means the pit road is going to be closed this time by. So Nofsker may be right on the edge of running out of fuel. You can see him clutching it through the tri-oval right now. Is he going to be able to make it back around? Usually this is something that we think of at the end of a race, Seth, not right in the middle.
Yeah, absolutely. Nofsker, I think, more than likely would have been on pit road coming off turn 4 that time had it been under green flag conditions. But because the caution came out just before Nofsker's nose hit the start-finish line, the caution was out that lap. And to your point, the pace car hadn't yet picked up the race leaders. So Nofsker hoping that pace car hurries up so he can pit this time. He continues, looks like, to clutch a little bit there out of turn 2. You saw the car bogged down.
Yeah, the
Let's
pace
see if
car
we can make it around here.
Yeah, the pace car had a huge lead because, as you mentioned, at the point that yellow flag had come out, Nofsker was due in that lap, and they still hadn't taken the caution flag yet, so he couldn't come down pit road. So he's really at a crawl here off into turn 3. I have a feeling he's going to be able to make it, but I got to wondering if it's sputtering just a little bit on him right now.
Looking to see where this pace car is, and it looks like it might be just now coming out of turn number 2. Yeah, Nofsker has now caught the pace car that's actually coming out of turn number 4, so they finally have caught to the back bumper of that Dodge Charger pace car, and indeed, pit road will be open this time. So Nofsker was able to make it.
Well, that also puts Nofsker, McClure, Paglia, and Elliott back onto the same pit strategy as the rest of the field. So that's going to kind of wipe the slate clean here as far as strategy is concerned. And Seth, we're going to double this field back up again. We're going to see 3-wide racing with the entire field here, probably only a lap or two after we go back green flag racing.
Yeah, I added another driver that wanted to see this caution. Actually, another 2 drivers, Andrew Miller and Robbie Nisus. They will be in line for the free pass positions. A driver that did not want to see this caution was the 7 of Cy Jones, because he had just been coming to pit road at the time the 13's engine expired. So that took him out of the running for a free pass position as things got a little congested on pit road there. They continue to get congested.
Ooh,
3
contact.
wide, almost 4 wide off the pit lane.
Joe Dispirito with that huge advantage having that first pit stall. He came in 4th on the field, will exit in 1st.
Did the 24 get a black flag? Because he merged onto the track sooner than he was supposed to.
I believe you may be right, Seth. I'm not sure if that's going to be an EOLL or if that's going to be a pass-through.
I think you have to merge at this Talladega into turn 1, and he was already above the yellow line before they got to the first corner, so I don't know if he received a black flag and was moving up there to get out of driver's way or what the situation is there, because that seemed like a little bit too early of a merge for me.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. We'll have to see how they call this one. I don't see the 24 putting his hand out the window for the EOLL. So I'm not entirely certain, Seth, but again, I believe that would be a penalty. Not sure. I didn't see for sure whether all 4 tires were above that yellow line, but if he still had 2 below, he might have just skirted by.
Yeah, and obviously up here in the booth too, it's tough to be able to see the exact merge point when you're out there on the track. Sometimes looks a little bit different as we're looking here to what happened to the 13 of Dave Melson. And man, credit the 043 of Brian Lavelle having the wherewithal, realizing the 13 was in trouble because he could have very easily run into the back of Dave Melson as that Chevrolet's speed was decreasing.
24 pitting, Seth. 24 back onto pit road. Again, I'm not sure if this is to top off for gas or to come in for a yellow, because I don't believe you can serve pass-throughs under yellow or stop and go. So I'm not entirely sure what's happening right now.
Yeah, to your point, if you end up speeding on pit road, then the spotter and race control, they will tell you that you have to go EOL. They don't necessarily have you come down pit road to serve the penalty. And you can see right there, just pulling into a stall. I don't know if fuel was taken on board that Exalta Chevrolet, but obviously no tires were taken on. So a bit of a mystery right there on that one.
Well, he did come out really fast, so I'm kind of curious as to whether maybe he may have taken just a can and a half, which was the reason that he beat the rest of the field off of pit road. If that is the case, he may have come down to top off again, especially if he's going to have to serve a penalty once the green flag comes out. That would only make the most logical sense to me.
Yep, I agree with you. That does make the most sense. So Dispirito looks like he will be restarting, according to our scoring monitor, back in the 20th position. Jeff Crivello is actually going to be the race leader. He won the battle off pit road over Tim Nosker and Chuck McClure. Your championship 4 restart like this. It'll be Grant Wesley up in 4th, Bob Seminara in 6th, Jessica Shelton, this breathes new life into her championship hopes. She's going to restart 10th. And as we just documented, Dispirito will start back in the 20th position. You see Andrew Miller and Robbie Nices. They're waiting for the lights to go out atop the pace car so they can go around, get the free pass, which would leave us with a total, I believe, of 25 drivers on the lead lap.
Yeah, and I bet the 47's really happy to be getting that wave around right now. We've seen in the last couple races, Andrew only continues to perform better and better as he gets more and more comfortable with his competitors out on the racetrack, and they get more comfortable with him. So this gives him a second chance to get back up in the mix of things as well. If the 24 does have to serve a penalty once the green flag comes out, what do you think is going through the mind of the 94 right now? Because she's back up into the mix. She's back up into contention for the playoff championship. But in the event that the 24 does have to serve a green flag penalty, that's going to give her a clear advantage for the bracket series as well.
Certainly is, but I think based off of the penalty system that we know that the game gives, I don't think there's really any penalty out there aside from passing under yellow, which forces you to come down pit road and serve that penalty under green flag. So I don't necessarily think that the penalty is on that 24 anymore.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see, as he will let a handful of his competitors past him now. I'm not sure if that black flag has been cleared and he's been instructed to go EOLL or not, but it looked like he did let 4 or 5 drivers pass him here, as he now lines up even further toward the back than I believe what he was to start with.
Yeah, my monitor, and I don't know if this is maybe just a half a lap behind or not, it is still scoring the 24 with a black flag. So not certain if that's one that he's already served or if this is one that he still needs to serve. We're certainly going to find out the answer to that when we go back green. But to your point, if this is indeed a green flag penalty that he's going to have to serve, that's going to really shake things up, not only in terms of that bracket championship, but the overall championship as well, because Dispirito came into this race the defending winner of this race from a season ago and also the defending champion.
Absolutely. And we saw, his first signs of any bad luck whatsoever in last week's race. So this is kind of just adding insult to injury to that. Again, there are still going to be When we go back green flag racing, it looks to be 25 laps remaining, so that's not insurmountable odds. But if we have another long green flag run, that spells big trouble for the 24 team.
Definitely does, as Jeff Crivello chooses the outside line for this restart. Pulls way up there to the outside line here. Don't know if he's waiting maybe for a potential shove from Grant Wesley here, if they can time the throwing of this green flag. Here comes Wesley with a run, but the 17 and 088, boy, they were nose to tail, and Chuck McClure is pushing Tim Knopfsker into turn one.
They were nose to tail, but the 88 of Wesley gave the 56 of Crivello a shot as he caught up to the rear end of him and looked to push him back up to side by side with Knopfsker. But as we see off of turn two, that bottom line with the advantage now as Knopfsker controls the race, being pushed by the 17 of McClure down the backstretch and into turn three.
The Monero was able to find a hole in the inside line behind Metallic in front of Middleton's. He's fifth on that inside line currently. Wesley still tucked on the top side. Another driver actually just brought his car to the garage area, and that is the 043 of Brian Lavelle. So right now, 3 cars will be out of this event, including Dave Melson and Jeremy Jeffries. Add a fourth as Bob Dixon just brought the 143 to the garage area.
And also a note on the 24. The 24 is still out on the racetrack, so not entirely sure, again, race fans, what exactly is going on with the scoring with that car, but it would appear at this point that he's going to be okay, as we see the 88, the 17, and the 28 now move up to that middle line in front of the 56 of Crivello in fourth, before you get to your first side-by-side battle for fifth between Josh Metallic and the 90 of Bernie Mobbs.
Yeah, update on that 24. The black flag penalty that showed on my scoring monitor, it cleared when we went green. So apparently whatever the black flag was, Dispirito served it when he came down pit road that second time. As you mentioned, though, back up here at the front, right now it's Grant Wesley who sits in the championship slot. Only 2 cars behind him, though, is the side-by-side with Seminara and Jessica Shelton.
And it looks like those cars are battling for position. So that's going to be our first notable playoff battle here tonight. I think aside from our previous run where they were all kind of grouped up, peppered between positions 4th through 10th, the two, Wesley and Shelton now side by side heading off down into turn number 3. Neither one of those drivers being able to achieve a championship at this rate. But the 94 jumps down in front of the 88. She's going to lead that inside line now.
Hey, better to know where your championship competitors are. Have them right in your rearview mirror, as now Shelton currently is leading the championship currently unofficially in the 5th position, battling with Bernie Mobbs. And a number I found interesting that you brought up just before we went green, 25 laps to go. That means that these drivers are going to be anywhere from 5 to 6 laps short of making it on fuel. We could have some clutch last-minute green flag pit stops deciding not only this race, but this championship.
Or think back earlier in the season, Seth, if we were to have a caution flag come out with about 5 laps to go, that could put these guys into a position where they may need to clutch to the end of the race, as we saw Grant Wesley be able to achieve with a victory earlier here this year.
And on the flip side of that, if they complete the next 3 laps under green, any caution after that would put them in the fuel window to make it the rest of the way.
Absolutely. And not to forget, with 15 laps to go, they will be racing back to the caution flag, something they don't do in the entire, the beginning of the race. You just don't do that. When the yellow comes out, you freeze the field. So there's a lot of things right now coming up on 20 laps to go that are about to change in the complexion of this race. And I think our intensity level is starting to ratchet up just a little bit more and a little bit more every lap set.
Man, you just can't help but feel bad for Bob Seminara, 3-time champion. The internet woes are back. The 712 had to jump back up to the 3rd lane, letting drivers on by as the side-to-side came back. It's just not the night that Bob Seminara needed this to be happening.
No, that's really, really frustrating as a driver, because there's nothing that you can do about it during the race. You can't just pull in, reset your internet, reset your modem, and get back in it again without suffering huge penalties. So that's one of those things you just gotta kind of ride out and hope that it clears up. As we saw the 56 of Crivello dive down there to the bottom line along with the 90 of Bernie Mobbs. That stalled out the run that the Shelton machine and the 88 of Wesley were having, and now that line falling back on the racetrack as they fall back to about 9th and 10th position.
But we talked about the possibility of a first-time champion. Right now, the two drivers that would fit that bill are the two that are out in front of the championship four, Shelton in the 94, Wesley in the 88. As Wesley, woo,
What a move!
Just barely tucked in front of Wiley Coat in the 6.
A really aggressive move to the top side. I think Wesley had enough, saw that nothing was happening on that inside line. Nobody wanted to run it. Now, this is very interesting, Seth. With 20 laps, 19 laps to go this time by, it doesn't appear to be very much urgency at the front of the field here as we see them getting sorted out single file once again. The first double wide not happening till you get back to the Shelton and Wesley machine back here in about 13th position.
Ooh, little contact there as well between Shelton and Wesley. Shelton trying to find her way up there into that middle line, but it's just a line of cars behind her. Billy Elliott goes around, Stefan Martel about to go around. And we're starting to see drivers like we saw Wesley trying to make moves up into that middle groove. Just a couple laps prior, Bernie Mobbs put a huge block on the 9 of Chris Elliott trying to get into that outside line. I thought they very nearly were going to make some bumper grab contact, but so far everybody's been able to keep it green up to this point, but Shelton trying to fight her way into that outside line. Now 3 wide as here comes Seminara on the top side with Richard Martin and Joe Dispirito.
Yep, and Seminara giving no quarter at this point. He knows that Shelton is also racing for the championship, but so is he, and he keeps having to fall back due to technical difficulties. So we'll see if now that he's up on that top side, if they can make any time on the rest of the field, but it looks to only have 5 cars right now in that draft. Seth, I'm kind of surprised at this point of the race with less than 20 laps to go that we're seeing as much single file as we are after having the entire pack being broken up by that first round of green flag pit stops. It just doesn't seem like anybody wants to make any moves right now.
It does seem that way, but you also get the sense this is the calm before the storm. These guys, they're starting to form a battle plan, starting to draw up the blueprints onto how they think they're going to have to make moves to win this race. And of course, as well, we've got that one pit stop they have to make between now and the checkered flag, so they're also starting to formulate a strategy for that.
Yep, and they're only about 10 or 11 laps away from that possibility, assuming that they can stay clean and green to this point. Now the Nature Boy, Donnie Garrett and Josh Metallic, they're running in about 8, 7 to the 8th position on the racetrack. They're trying to make something happen up a groove higher than that middle lane, but again, drivers just not willing to go out there and try to break off that single file. We now see the 2 of Middleton. He's going to get up to the back bumper. It looks possibly the 6 of Wiley Coat as well. He's going to get up there, but again, the numbers just not working in their favors as they head off into turn 1.
We're starting to see some slicing and dicing though, because we had Hank Middleton, as you said, jump to the top side. Wiley Coat jumped up there, and then when Stefan Martel tried to jump up there to get the draft off of Shelton, Seminara, Martin, and Dispirito, they all jumped down to the inside line. So we're starting to see a lot of cutting through the field here in the midway portion of the pack. Shelton now to the inside of Billy Elliser. Next car ahead is Grant Wesley. She's going to stick him in the middle.
Very interesting. She has behind her the 712 of Seminara as well as the 24 of Dispirito. So I'm kind of wondering if she realized, hey, these guys are right on my back bumper. They're coming forward. Do I need to make a move to try to block these guys off as well as try to make some time up on the racetrack myself? Use them to my advantage.
Well, they all have a common goal, not just to win the championship, but to make sure they even make it to the finish to be in the hunt for this championship. And 9 times out of 10, when we interview drivers post-race, they say the safest place to be to avoid the wreck is at the front. So if all 4 of them work together to get up to the front, they keep their championship hopes alive a little bit better. The percentage goes a little bit higher.
Well, hypothetically, that's until you get to just a few laps to go, Seth, because once a few laps to go comes, everything else is out the window. Jeff Crivello now with quite a bit of side-to-side warp in turns number 3 and 4, just as Donnie Garrett went to the low side to try to make a move. Seth, that's going to hurt the bottom lane's momentum in a big way.
It's also going to hurt Grant Wesley because he had to lift just a tad to make sure that he didn't run into the back of that 56 that had the side-to-side warp. Now Wesley's going to jump to the bottom and help lead that inside line.
Yeah, we'll have to see if that lead line can make any time at this point. Now it looks like they have 7, 8, 9, 10 cars attached to them down there. But again, with the number of cars that are in that middle lane, we've seen how much stronger that line is, being led by Knopfskirk, McClure, and Paglia. Now, another interesting note right now, Seth, that top 3, I think that's been our top 3 for about the last 10 to 15 laps now. Those three just, really giving nothing up out there on the racetrack and making it work really well in that middle line.
Yeah, right now they have been the top three for pretty much the last 25 laps of this race. Novsker has led 27 circuits around Talladega, and as we're starting to see these moves being made, look in the back of the screen. There is a third line forming. That's Wiley Coate, Dante Ricky, Sonny Tallman, Perry Bond, and others. So if these guys continue side by side, more than likely we're going to end up seeing that third line possibly come into play.
Yeah, but right now it looks like that bottom line finally starting to build just a little bit momentum, comprised of Wesley, Garrett, Shelton, Seminara, as well as the 24 of Dispirito before you get to the 00 of Wayne Pribb. Now, most of your playoff contenders in that bottom line, they are tired of running. But look at this, the 90 Mobs, he's going to come down, throw a block on that bottom line. That bottom line's going to have a lot of momentum by the time they catch up to his back bumper. That could be detrimental for both Mobs and that line below, as we see Novsker and company now dive to the low side into turn 1.
Also saw Chris Elliott come right down onto the passenger side, I should say, of Bernie Mobs. Little door banging there as Mobs now will get into the third spot, bringing Wesley along with him. The numbers starting to fade on that outside line as Sullins, Elliott, Crivello, no friends, and they're going to have no friends in that middle line because now Wiley Coate's going to try and take him 3 wide up top.
And it's really interesting as you see Sullins and Elliott now drop down to that middle line. I'm not sure if that's the smartest move unless somebody ahead of you pops up in front of you. But right now it looks like the momentum with the 6 and the 84. Leaders still single file about 8 positions back until we get to the big battle. It looks now the 38 has gotten up alongside the 712 of Seminara heading off into turn 1.
And right now, it would be Wesley still out in front of the championship battle, but then 2 cars back is Shelton, another car back is Seminara, another car back is Dispirito. I mentioned at the top of the broadcast that these championship 4, they were probably going to find themselves all in the same vicinity in the closing stages of this race. A lot of leagues, they have their season finale at tracks like Homestead Miami Speedway, those 1.5-mile tracks, things get somewhat spread out. Not here at a track where you're so closely packed like Talladega.
Absolutely. And you have to help. Leaders are coming onto pit road. It looks like the 88 of Novsker, the 7th.
Middleton!
Huge impact to that inside wall. We've got cars all over the place at the entrance of the pit road. That's going to spell big trouble for those 4 dominant cars here tonight, Seth.
That was Paglia, Garrett, as well as the 17 of McClure, all in the grass. We saw it happen live. It looked like the 2 of Hank Middleton was coming in with such a head of steam, and he just turned the car way too far to the left, got that inside wall. I'm not sure if maybe he realized he was coming in too fast. He was trying not to wreck those drivers ahead of him, but that was obviously not the result. And to your point now, that trio that had dominated the second half of this race, now they're all broken up. A couple of them might be serving some 30-second penalties with being spun to the infield grass as we got more drivers on pit road.
Absolutely. And dare I say, Seth, as much as I hate to say it, I think that's going to take all of those contenders out of contention for the race win here at this point, barring another quick yellow flag. But right now we've still got Bernie Mobs leading the field over Grant Wesley, the 94 of Shelton, the 712 Seminara, and that 5th position belonging to the 24 of Dispirito. So we've got an interesting situation where we have all 3 of the Florida gang there, but Wesley and Shelton kind of working together, keeping a pick between them and Seminara and Dispirito.
And how fitting, if indeed all 4 of them have to pit this lap, that really all of them are going to be right around each other for this green flag pit stop, which could be the money stop, could be the difference maker in this championship.
Oh, we've got trouble!
Seminara! That might be a caution. I think the yellow will come out, and it does.
Yellow flag is out. The Pribnow machine got into the right rear of the 712 of Seminara hard. Now, I don't believe that these guys that are on pit road can make the pit stop unless they got onto pit road before the yellow flag came out. So we'll have to see, does anybody gamble? The 88 is going to drive all the way through, as is the 24 and 94. They don't want to risk a penalty, so they will come back by next time by and try to pit again.
I think the only driver of that group that made the commitment line prior to the caution coming out was the 90 of Bernie Mobbs, and he was the leader at the time when they came off turn 4. So it looks like he may have been the only one that was able to make a pit stop there without a penalty.
So your championship for right now, the 712 of Seminara, he is in big trouble. We'll have to see how bad the damage is when he comes to the pit this time by. But at this point, it looks like the 88 will have the advantage. Now, these were just the leaders coming into pit road. These are not the current leaders. What this does, Seth, is this is actually going to put all 4 of our playoff contenders at a disadvantage. The cars that stayed out, they're going to be able to make those pit stops and come out before our playoff contenders. That just shuffled our whole show to the back of the field, Seth.
Definitely did. I think we had 7 drivers that had stayed out when that caution came out. Ricky, Tallman, Harris, Metallic, Crivello, Coate, and Nisus. So, yeah, they are going to have the advantage here of more than likely getting off of pit road ahead of our championship 4, which means there's going to be no clean racetrack. There's going to be traffic for those drivers to have to deal with here in the closing stages. And as we saw that spin there with the 712 of Bob Seminara, it doesn't look like the impact was detrimental enough to take him out of this race. He may have dodged a bullet just based on the fact that when he spun, nobody else hit him, and it was rather light contact between himself and the 00 of Wayne Pribnow.
The 24 overshot his pit, Seth, so that's going to cost him some time on pit road. Not enough for the 712 and the 94 to get by him, but to your point about the incident coming onto pit road, Seminara also got very lucky that he hadn't hit that commitment line when he went spinning. He spun back out onto the racetrack, so he's not looking at any sort of penalties aside from, the contact that was made at pit entrance there for merging out onto the grass from pit road. So maybe a couple different bullets dodged there for him tonight, and that's going to keep him in contention. We're only probably going to have about 3 laps to go when we go back green here.
Now, we don't really know the full extent of the damage that was sustained by drivers like Chuck McClure, Mark Paglia, and others. I believe Paglia actually received a black flag even under that pit stop, so he actually had to come back down pit road, because I saw when some of those leaders were coming down pit road when the caution came out, he was facing the wrong way on pit lane. It spun coming back down pit road. He's trapped a lap down, but in the case of the 17 of McClure and the 088 of Novsker, this gives them a chance to at least get back into the running of this as well, all dependent on how much damage they sustained when they got spun by Hank Middleton.
Yeah, and I think the 088, based on the fact that he was the first car into pit road, he may have gotten lucky and been one of the only cars to, not get damaged in that incident. But obviously, that hurts when those are cars that you've been working with all race long and making so much speed with. When you lose even one of them, as they've lost the 28 of Paglia, the 17 and the 088 are still together, but that completely changes the complexion of this race. And for the first time in however many weeks here, with all the green flag runs that we've had, we finally see an incident that does bring out the yellow. And this is going to cause this is really going to make for an exciting finish, Seth, because there's only going to be a few laps to go, and all of the championship contenders are starting from the rear, as well as the cars that have been the fastest all race long. They're starting in the middle of the field, so there's going to be a lot of cars trying to make moves forward with just 3 laps to go, while you've got those guys that are up at the front of the pack that are really hungry to try to bring home one of those victories.
And with it being 3 laps to go, and we know that despite the fact that a couple of drivers are going to get the free passes here under this caution, we're still going to have a few drivers a lap down. So once we go green, next flag is going to end the race, whether it be the caution or whether the white flag is able to be waved.
Absolutely. So obviously that's going to put Grant Wesley at the advantage right now, as he's got the 39 of Metallic between himself and Dispirito. But that also creates a very real sense of urgency. As soon as that green flag comes out, you have to try to make up as many positions as you possibly can, because there is still a chance that we could have another yellow that ends this race really quickly. So you've got to go, and you've got to go like yesterday.
Right now, as things stand, and we still have to wait until we get the 1 to green signal and figure out where exactly everyone's lined up. Wesley, to your point, currently the leader of the championship 4. Right now they have him scored in 12th. Joe Dispirito 14th, Bob Seminara in 16th, and Jessica Shelton in 17th. So they're still all close around each other, much like we saw when they were all going to come down pit road together a couple of laps ago. And currently, the 43 of Richard Martin was being scored the leader. We were hearing that he was actually being told by his spotter to line up back behind the 45. So I'm not certain what the whole scoring discrepancy was there. 28 of Mark Paglia looks like he's coming down pit road. I thought he was one of the free pass machines that were going to be able to take the lucky dog. I thought it was going to be himself and Stefan Martel, and now it looks like he may actually be, well, I'm not certain now who the lucky dog is. I know the 57 is one. We have to wait and find out who the other one's going to be.
Yeah, the 28 has actually dropped down onto the apron. It looks as though he's letting the field past him. As now the yellow flag, the lights have gone off atop the pace car. So, Seth, I believe we've got John Godfrey as our race leader now.
We do now. Wow. Godfrey, Rodney Sullins, Chris Elliott, Andrew Miller, Billy Elliott. That's the top five. And those were drivers that came down pit road the lap prior to the caution. And it looks like the second driver that did get the lucky dog, along with the 57 of Stefan Martel, was the 11 of Mike Rogers. Donnie Garrett took the wave around, as did Cy Jones. Garrett will be back in the lead lap. Cy Jones will now be -1.
Hey, look at that car in fourth position. Remember what we were talking about 15 laps ago with the 47 of Andrew Miller, as well as he's run here. He got that lap back. He's now found himself in the top five. You know what I like about this top five right now? Godfrey, Sullins, Chris Elliott, Andrew Miller, the 26 car, Billy Ellis, are all guys that we know are very capable drivers, and they're very good. And with coming to the line, there's only going to be 4 laps to go here at the restart. They are in contention just like the rest of this field is right now. Everybody's heart's got to be pounding right now, Seth. I know my blood pressure's starting to raise just a little bit. We're going to see a lot of things happen here in the next lap, 2, 3, hopefully 4.
Yeah, this is the beauty of super speedway racing, because Andrew Miller last week off of turn 4 on the final lap found himself up in the third level of the catch fence. Here tonight, though, in only his second start of the Talladega Challenge, he's up here with a chance of picking up his first Talladega Challenge victory, as are quite a number of the other drivers up here inside of this top 5. But buckle up, folks. It's basically what we would call the point of no return. Any flag comes out between now and the checkers, it's race back to the line, race win, and championship will be decided then. Let's see if they can keep it clean, as it will be 3 laps to go, make it 4 laps to go officially when we go back for the green flag.
They come through the tri-oval looking to pick up the exit. John Godfrey will receive the green flag. 4 laps now remaining. Our playoff contenders at the rear and middle of the field. They work their way side by side into turn 1. It looks like Godfrey will have the advantage. Something happened up with that middle line. Those cars lost a lot of momentum up top, giving way to that bottom line. They've now got a 3, almost 4 car breakaway. Chuck McClure and the 38 of Rodney Sullins, your first side-by-side battle in the middle of the backstretch.
And we're back with where we started. Well, we had Wesley, Dispirito, Seminary, and Shelton all lined up nose to tail, but now Wesley has jumped up to the second groove in the 88, leaving the bottom line open for the 24 car.
And it does not look like Grant Wesley is going to try to block that run.
Oh,
We got
Chuck
big
McClure!
trouble! Big trouble!
Caution! Caution is out! This is it! This is the race! Dispirito got to run on Wesley! Dispirito's going to edge ahead! He's going to win the championship! Godfrey's going to win the race!
Wow.
Oh,
more
they're still
trouble!
wrecking!
Oh, Wesley involved! He's down the track! He gets collected by the 47 of Miller.
Almost got into the 24 of Dispirito there, as I think that was Glenn Harris and another driver who got together on the apron of turn 1.
Man, I was trying to see where our playoff contenders were, but just as you mentioned, Seth, the 24 of Dispirito with a huge run to the inside of Wesley. I don't believe Wesley could block, and he could also not move forward either. The only thing that he could do was watch that 24 car sail on by. The 24, ladies and gentlemen, of Joe Dispirito. It looks as though unofficially at this time, 2 consecutive championships if he can make it back around to the checkered flag.
Trying to join Brian Schilling as a back-to-back champion here in the Talladega Challenge. We're going to go back and look at the replay here, and if our ticker is indeed correct, 35 one-thousandths of a second is going to be the difference maker in the championship here in season 51. The contact started up near the front between the 17 of Chuck McClure and the 26 of Billy Elliser.
Yep, I saw the 26 machine come up across the racetrack. Not sure if he got bumper grabbed or if there was contact into the right rear of his race car. But that happened off of turn number 4, right in front of the, right toward the front of the pack. That probably couldn't have happened at much worse a position, but it's really fortunate that more cars weren't caught up in that.
Absolutely. Bernie Mobbs, Donnie Garrett, Cy Jones, a number of others collected up in that one. I think Dante Ricky got a piece. And now we're going to go back and we're going to look at the battle to the start-finish line between Grant Wesley and Joe Dispirito. And this is such a tough situation for both drivers because not only are you trying to battle each other back to that caution flag, but you're also trying to make sure the lane you pick is not going to be a lane where a driver's going to slide down in front of you.
Absolutely. And again, it just comes down to momentum. We saw the 24 on the inside line. Wesley with the opportunity to block off of turn 4 before that incident happened, but it looked like Wesley just maintained his line. May have been a byproduct of not knowing exactly how that wreck was going to play out in front of them, and by the time they got clear of it, he had already lost that time to the 24 who took advantage of that as any driver would.
Now this is interesting. I'm going to let you weigh in on this because you've raced over here in RTG a lot longer than I have. I'm not certain what the ruling is about post-caution wrecks because when we saw the 08 get out of shape, he got a bump from behind by Andrew Miller, who in turn got a bump from behind by Joe Dispirito. So if the 24 was pegged for the responsibility of that wreck under caution, is there some kind of a penalty handed out for that?
There could very well be, so we will have to wait to see on the official word on that. If that is the case, if he manages to stay clear of that, that is 2 major incidents under yellow flag in which he was able to somehow avoid and still be up here to win this championship. So we'll have to see what race officials and league admins say about that. I'm kind of nervous about that. So I'm not sure how that's going to play out just yet.
Yeah, it leaves us with a bit of a question mark there. The drivers that were spun out, though, after the caution was taken, were allowed to get their spots back. So Glenn Harris is back up in 3rd. Andrew Miller currently now in the 5th position. But John Godfrey, how about this 7-11? We got to go back to that green flag pit stop. When he made the decision to come down pit road with about 5 others, it got him that track position in the closing stages of this race. And because he was out in front when the yellow flag came out, we talked about the possibility of a first-time winner here tonight. John Godfrey is about to fit that bill.
Absolutely, and it's kind of ironic because it was just a week or 2 ago, Seth, that we did talk to John Godfrey, and we talked to him about the fact that he has been very, very strong, but, situations just not playing out to his advantage toward the end of the race, and that's how quickly that it flips around here at these super speedways with the unpredictability factor. John Godfrey going to pull off his first win of the season, well-deserved. He's going to be very excited to talk to us in Victory Lane. Chris Elliott, Glenn Harris, they are your cars sitting in 2nd and 3rd right now, so it's going to be good to talk to these guys after tonight's race. They were able to come up here and play spoilers to the guys who have gotten the most victories so far this season.
It's amazing that the championship battle almost kind of takes a little bit of a back seat in the season finale because I believe that at least 4, maybe all 5 of our top 5 finishers here tonight, they're getting their best finishes of the season.
Yep, I believe that you may be right. We have seen Chris Elliott perform very well, but again, all 5 of this top 5 cars and drivers that we've seen be very, very capable. So, sometimes it just takes that little bit more, and it took until race 15 for these guys to be able to pull it off. But it's good to see this top 5 right now. It's good to see these names and newer faces, not the dominant forces that we saw in the other drivers, but when you have drivers of these calibers and drivers getting multiple wins, and it just takes opportunities away from these other guys, and the bad luck of those guys playing into these guys' advantage, and I don't think that they're going to want to give it back just because it was a little bit of luck that played into their favor here tonight.
Checkered flag in the hands of the race official, and it will fly over the hood of John Godfrey. He'll finish out the season with a W. Crossing the line in 6th is going to be the 24 of Joe Dispirito, and we mentioned the fact that here tonight, the battle was going to be close. Dispirito finishes 6th, Wesley 7th, Seminary 8th, Shelton in 9th.
What a great season, Seth. These guys work so hard all year long, and they put on so many great shows. And these 4 drivers, for them to finish right there together as they did, I think that's a pretty fitting end for these guys. And Joe Dispirito, assuming everything plays out here, and I believe he will likely be crowned the championship probably officially here, even after these reviews. He just had a very, very dominant season. I don't think anybody is surprised to see him hoist up that trophy here tonight, as this was his year all year long, and he proved that to all these guys out here. He put on a show. Only one finish all season long in which he finished outside of the top 10. That's how you win a championship.
Well, it's kind of interesting, too, because you look at his season, just as you ran down the statistics there, and you look at the bracket series. Only one chink in his armor, and that was last week when he lost in the bracket series battle to Jessica Shelton. Other than that, he's been undefeated this season. Not only will he be hoisting the championship trophy here tonight for the Talladega Challenge, he also is the champion in the bracket series.
Absolutely, and a great showing for Jessica Shelton. She was able to bring it home 9th tonight, so another top 10 for her. Again, just a situation where the timing not working out as well. They only had about 3/4 of a lap of racing before that yellow flag came back out again, and there's only so many moves that you can make in that time. But still, just an excellent season. Nothing for any of these guys to hang their heads on, especially taking into consideration the dominance that we saw out of the 2014.
Absolutely. Joe Dispirito had a lot of pressure coming into this season, coming in as the defending champion. How did he answer it? Well, 11 pole positions, including tonight, 3 trips to victory lane, all 3 of them taking place during the first 3 races of the playoffs, and a good enough finish here tonight over his 3 championship competitors, a 6th place finish to bring home his 2nd straight championship, which, as mentioned, for the first time it has been done since Brian Schilling was able to do it, and that was back during seasons 46 and 47. So a statement season here for Joe Dispirito, just based on the fact that everybody was probably wondering, can he do it again?
And he did do it again. So I think that's going to put a little bit of a target on his back heading into next season as well. He just had so much speed. We saw it from qualifying. We saw it throughout the races, but he also got a lot of really, really good luck this year. Only one race that didn't play to his advantage. So I think these guys are going to remember this next year. May not find himself with quite as many friends out there on the racetrack as, hey, man, you keep stealing all our wins and championships. Now it's our turn.
And I think one of the coolest things here tonight as well was because we saw Jessica Shelton lose the draft early. Bob Seminara was caught up in a spin. In a lot of your Championship 4 finales, you end up seeing 1 or 2 drivers get involved in an early wreck and be out of the championship hunt before the first half of the race is even over. The fact that all 4 of our championship competitors were still able to be in the hunt, even right up to the end, I thought that was actually really cool, because at that point, we still didn't know who the champion was going to be.
Oh, it was very, very cool. Coming to that green flag line, there was still 2 championships to be sorted out with drivers that were just a few positions apart. So it would have been great to see how it played out had it been able to make it to the end without incident. But still, I don't think there was any disappointment in tonight's show. Everybody's got to be very happy with the results.
Without a doubt. And some of the drivers, especially, that are going to be happy with their results. Some of the drivers we're about to interview. Let's see if we can get a word with Glenn Harris, who I believe not only gets his best finish of the season, this is actually his first top 10 this entire year. So let's get a word with the driver of the Krispy Kreme Chevrolet. Hey, Glenn, it's Zach and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Yeah, Zach. Hey, Seth.
Man, what a run for you here tonight. A lot of the performance we saw here tonight looked like it came down to your pit road strategy. Had you up there at the front at the end. I know that you guys probably wanted to race this thing out to the checkered flags. That way you could get around some of those other two in front of you. But man, how does it feel to have a top 5 finish here to end out the season?
Yeah, that's great. Again, just lucky with the way the pit stops fell. Got out in good position for that last restart. I think had it not gone caution, there would have been a few of those faster cars to get by me. But I'll take the third place and feel good about that.
Hey, Glenn, it's Zach up here in the booth. Hey, man, you never want to look a gift horse in the mouth. Things kind of falling apart there off of turn 4, which ultimately ended up ending the race. However, you showed all season long that you had the speed and consistency to run with those guys. Finally, tonight, things just playing into your favor, being able to come home with that third place finish. Who were you looking to work with had that race gone green the rest of the way?
Well, I was gonna hug the bottom and stay down there with John and Chris and see what happens.
I got you, man. Well, it's very good to see you with that third place finish. Does this give you a little bit of momentum and a little bit more confidence heading towards season 52?
Oh yeah, definitely. I feel like I'm gaining a little bit. Still got some improvement to do, but making progress.
Gotcha, man. Again, great to see you with a solid top 3 finish. Look to see more of that out of you in the future here. Great to talk to you. Any shout outs, thank yous, or sponsors that you'd like to give some words to here tonight?
Just again, thanks to Flatout Racing for the job you guys do. Everybody here really appreciates it. The owners, the admins all do a terrific job, and there's just a bunch of great competitors here in this series. Every one of them good, clean racers, experienced drivers. Really enjoy this forum.
Well, that's Glenn Harris. He brings it home here tonight with his best finish of the season to cap off season 51 of the Talladega Challenge. Once again, congratulations there, Glenn.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. Thanks, Seth.
Next up, we've got Chris Elliott, who not only gets his first top 5 of the season, but his first top 10. He knocked on the door in 3 races, 11th place, but wasn't quite able to break in. He does here tonight. Hey, Chris, it's Zach and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Hey, whoops, there we go. Hey, how y'all doing? I heard you.
Well, we're doing good, and I can only imagine how you're doing. Man, what a performance to cap off your season here of season 51, 2nd place. But man, if you had been able to have this thing go green to the end, do you think you had anything to get around Godfrey? And did you have anybody behind you you'd maybe worked out an alliance with to help push you there?
Yeah, you know what? It could have happened. I'm just glad to be in the podium. First, I want to thank you guys, Flatout Racing Network. You do an awesome job. I listen to you guys through my car on the stereos system. It sounds like MRN radio, if you remember that. But anyway, yeah, it would have been a blast, but it was kind of nice that it came out for me, kind of calm down and have a nice chill finish. 2nd place, I'll take it.
Chris, we ended up seeing in the past couple of weeks, pit road entrance especially has been a treacherous place for drivers. And it was here tonight as well. We saw on the 2 occasions that you came down pit road, you kind of came down with a smaller group. Was that by design to kind of avoid the mass confusion that can take place coming to pit road with a large group?
That's exactly what I was trying to hope for this race because, as you know, we've had a lot of a few issues coming in the pits, and I'm trying to improve on my pit stops. Had some good ones today, and I think that helped me a lot for sure.
Chris, it's been Zach up here in the booth. Hey, man, great talking to you here. It's good to see you with a really good 2nd place finish. I actually kind of surprised that we didn't see some more out of you over the course of the season. We saw that number 9 Doritos machine with a lot of speed out there on the racetrack, a lot of really good, strong runs. What do you think that's going to take to put you in contention for the top 5 here, like every week going forward?
I think just experience. I'm getting more and more experience racing with these guys. We got some of the best talented drivers, and not just a few. A lot of guys here. Every one of them have talent, and it's so fun to race with them here. And just got to keep getting experience, make the right moves, stay out of trouble. Number 1, and make good pit stops.
Chris, you're also one of those very, very talented drivers, so don't sell yourself short on that. Your biggest offense this year, giving me the munchies with those Doritos machines running out there on the racetrack. I think at one point we saw 4 or 5 Doritos machines going forward. Do you think you can, really take over the field, get some brand recognition going on out there?
Oh, I think it's happened. We got the blue one and then a couple red ones, and who all knows the next year. We got 2 new paint schemes starting for next season, so we're excited about that. But we're still with Frito-Lay and Doritos, so yeah, it's all good.
All right, man, it's great to talk to you. We appreciate your time. Any shout outs, thank yous, or sponsors that you'd like to give mention to before we let you go here?
Yeah. Again, I'd like to thank Flatout Racing Network. You guys do a tremendous job as usual. I want to thank John and Glenn, Rodney, Andrew, and everybody else. Raced me super clean today. Thank everybody that watches on YouTube and Facebook, and I'm just glad to be here, guys. Thanks.
Well, that is Chris Elliott. He brings it home second place here tonight. His best finish of the season in the finale here tonight in the Talladega Challenge. Congratulations, Chris. Job well done.
Thank you, and ready to go, John Godfrey.
Who we are about to go down to victory lane to interview. John Godfrey, coming into tonight's event, was, I believe, 3rd highest of the drivers outside of the playoff standings. Just shows how consistent his year has been, and it caps off with a trip to victory lane here this evening. Hey, John, it's Zach and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network Studios. You got us?
Read you loud and clear, fellas. How you doing?
Well, man, 2 weeks ago when we had a conversation post-race, we were talking about the consistency you've had in this 712 machine, and, the statement was made that we felt you were not too far away from getting to victory lane. Talk about the feelings you were having coming to receive the caution flag, knowing this race was going to end under yellow, and you were going to be the one heading to victory lane.
Well, guys, I got to tell you, it's probably a good thing it finished under yellow, because I thought maybe I might pass out if it stayed green all the way, because, boy, that was my heart was just about beating out of my chest. But you're right. That's what we talked about 2 races ago. This team's been knocking on the door, and I had a good car tonight. But honestly, it was all about luck again, because if that 13 hadn't blown up when it did and we caught that caution, you probably wouldn't be talking to me now, because without the aid of that caution to catch up, I don't think we were too far back after that first round of green flag stops.
Yeah, I think the drivers that we saw finish up into the top 5, including yourself, were drivers we saw come to pit road together when that last cycle of green flag pit stops were taking place. Do you think that coming down with a fewer number of drivers and not having to be as congested on pit road, that actually played into the strength of why you were able to be in position when that caution came out to win this thing?
Absolutely, I do. Yes, that was another talk about luck again. That was another timely moment, and when things all sorted out coming out of that caution, and I realized I was restarting at first, like, oh wow.
Hey, John, Zach up here in the booth. Hey, man, just want you to know, super stoked to see you get up there and get that win here tonight. It doesn't matter if it happened under yellow. The fact of the matter is you got that win. You put yourself on the same board as the likes of the guys that won this season: Grant Wesley, Joe Dispirito, Tim Knofsker, Dante Ricky, Bob Seminara, Bernie Mobbs, and Jeremy Jeffries. You are now right there with them. How much confidence does this give you heading into season number 52?
Oh, an outstanding amount of confidence. It's great. I wish we could start next season next Thursday night, but we'll take a little break here and regroup. But yeah, we're going to be a force. And again, kind of kicking myself for not making the cut for the playoffs. This certainly would have been a great night if that had been the case. But hey, we'll keep plugging away. The team, the LaJoie's Town Fair Tire Camaro was fast. The team gave me a great car. Luck was on our side. And I want to thank you guys from Flatout Racing Network for the wonderful broadcast you do and putting us on the map.
Yeah, man, we appreciate you. One last question before I send you off to give some shout outs and thank yous. Had this thing remained green, did you have anybody in particular that you were looking to work with, or was your main mindset at that point just block as best as you can without trying to cause an incident to bring it back around for the checkered flag?
Well, I've raced a whole bunch with Chris Elliott. He's a good friend. I was hoping he'd remain a good friend, but honestly, they were going to have to team up on the outside because I wasn't leaving that line on the bottom there. Again, luck was on our side. The caution came out just when we needed it.
All right, John, again, congratulations on a big win in the race number 15 championship finale here. Hopefully next season we can see you up on the podium competing for that top 4 as well. Any shout outs, thank yous, or sponsors that you'd like to mention before we let you go?
Yep, as always, Chevrolet, LaJoy Scrap Processing, and Town Fair Tires. Thank you for your support. And Flatout Racing Network for all you do.
Well, coming into tonight's race, John Godfrey had only led 1 lap. Tonight, he leads 6, and the most important lap, taking the checkered flag in the Season 51 Talladega Challenge finale. Congratulations there, John, and to echo Zach there, looking forward to seeing this momentum carry into Season 52.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate that.
Well, Zach, when we came here into Talladega tonight, there were a lot of unknowns, but we knew the one certainty was that Talladega was not going to disappoint. And, I just to mention to people again how close this championship battle was. Dispirito finished 6th, Wesley behind him in 7th, Seminara 8th, Shelton 9th. The drivers that came into this race all tied for the number 1 seed. The final 4 are leaving the season finale 4 points separation.
Yeah, and that's I don't think that's any big surprise to us. We knew that those 4 cars were going to be really strong and they would try really hard to stick with each other throughout the course of the race, which, despite some early issues for the 712, early issues for the 24, and early issues for the 94, they were able to rebound. They were able to overcome that. Grant Wesley, probably the only driver that went without incident until that incident that happened under yellow flags. So, all 4 of these guys and gals, I should say, just a really, really solid, stout performance tonight. And it's good to see the level of competition we have between these playoff contenders, because nobody just rolled over and let anybody have their way or do anything else. Everybody was racing real hard at the end of the race. And it just goes to show, those probably were our top 4 best contenders on the season. So it's just really good showing. There's not a whole lot that I can say outside of that. It was a really fun race and really fun to watch the way that it played out.
And again, just to stress as well to people, just the dominant season that Joe Dispirito had coming into this season as the defending champion. 3 trips to victory lane, 11 pole positions, 10 top 5s and 14 top 10s, an average finishing position. And this is across the stretch of 15 Talladega races. We know how unpredictable the super speedways are, but an average finish of 5th place for that 24 machine. I mean, it wasn't even just an up and down season. It was all across the board an up season for that 24 team.
Absolutely. It was totally. There's no doubt about that. Just the one race last week where he ran into some trouble, and we're getting to the point now. Like, if we do a championship interview with him, Seth, we've talked to him so many times. I'm not even sure what to talk to Joe Dispirito about anymore.
Well, hopefully he's got some things to tell us, because we are going to be going down now to championship victory lane and speaking with your season 51 Talladega Challenge champion, Joe Dispirito. Hey, Joe, it's Seth and Zach up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Hey, guys, I got you. What's going on?
Well, man, 1 year ago, you were able to not only win the race, but win the championship. Here tonight, though, it's a 6th place finish that's good enough to get you the championship, and it came down to all 4 of you, yourself, Wesley, Shelton, and Seminara, all in the same proximity, really around 10 laps to go. So how difficult was it not only to strategize against them, but also strategize with where you guys were in the field?
Yeah, it was a crazy race. There's just like I said, a lot of crazy stuff going on. I made a mistake coming out of pit road on the second stop. I believe I came out and went straight onto the track. It wasn't the spot to merge, and I brain farted and I had to go to the back. And I thought I sped another time. I wasn't doing well on pit road, and luckily I made my way back to almost the front, and the caution came out there, and yeah, it was Grant, me, Bob, and Jessica right there, and it was crazy. It worked out. Grant jumped high, and I stayed low, and Bob helped me out there and squeaked me by him. Crazy race, though, overall.
You know, Joe, obviously there's a lot of pressure, I would have to assume, especially in a league such as this, where you guys are at the unpredictable super speedway week after week after week. Coming into this season as the defending champion, we kept talking to you, finishing up in the podium, but not able to find victory lane during the regular season. Finally, the 24 car catches fire. 3 straight wins when the playoffs begin. Coming into tonight, though, where was the pressure level in trying to make sure you would be a back-to-back champion?
I was very nervous going in. Yeah, a lot of pressure. I really wanted to defend my title, and luckily I did. But I'm gonna blame Zach on this one for for me not being able to go 5 for 5 like I was hoping to go. He jinxed me last week, and yeah, I couldn't get it done this week with the win, but I snuck by Grant at the end there. But yeah, a lot of pressure, man. We have a great group of guys overall. Grant's a great racer. Bob's a great racer. Everybody, Chuck. There's a whole line of guys that are great, and I'm just happy to be up there racing with them every week. When I started racing here in RTG, I didn't think I had a chance to even win one race, and now to be a multiple-time champion, it's unreal. I can't believe it.
Hey Joe, Zach up here in the booth. I'm going to come into this interview a little bit more tentatively than what I usually would,
Yeah.
because it sounds like you're a little bit upset with me at
Uh-huh.
the moment. But I don't think you can be upset with the numbers whatsoever after such a dominant season. 3 wins, 10 top 5s, 14 top 10s, 11 pole positions. I mean, Joe, I was talking to Seth before we got you in here. I'm getting to the point I don't even know what to talk to you about anymore, because we talk to you so consistently and you are so good out there on the racetrack. But what I do have to ask you is, how shaken were you after last week's event? You took a 25th place finish. It was the worst finish that you've had all season long after such a consistent year. How much did that shake you coming into tonight's race, knowing that you then had to bounce back from your worst race of the year to try to have one of your best races of the year tonight to try to get this championship?
Well, I was trying to think of all the positives in it. I mean, I got wrecked right at the beginning there, and there's nothing I could have done to avoid it. It just happened. Split second, I got spun, and the whole field ran over me, and I was in the air flipping. There's nothing I could have done there. But I was thinking about the positives, maybe not winning 5 in a row, or 4 in a row like I was trying to do in that specific race.
Yeah,
Or
sorry.
trying to run good. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Maybe that was, I'm thinking of all the positives, like I said. Maybe that kind of cooled me down. People weren't putting as big of a target on my back, and then maybe it would give me more of an advantage coming into race 5. I was thinking about that. And then I looked back at last season. Last season I won race 3. Grant won race 4, and then I got the title in race 5. I was thinking about that too. Maybe I could just have another repeat like that, and luckily that happened tonight. But I was thinking about all the positives. I just wanted to maybe lay low after being up front so much, and it worked out. But like I said, man, it was a crazy race tonight. It was a lot of bad internet connections and just a lot of crazy stuff, and I'm glad it ended the way it did, but sheesh.
Okay, I've got just one more thing for you here. You're the first champion since Brian Schilling to be able to pull off consecutive championships. Now, as you look forward to season number 52, what do you feel your odds are at being able to squeak out a number 3? Do you
Oh, no,
think...
he asked the
Oh,
question.
no, 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 no.
I
He
did
asked
it.
the
I did it.
question.
What do you think your odds are at being able to squeak out a number 3? We know you've got really fast, strong, competitive cars. You've got great teammates out there on the racetrack. Do you view this season as, one of those sort of once in a career achievements where you were able to be so dominant from start to finish, or do you carry now these expectations over to season number 52?
Yeah, it was, it's one once in a lifetime type of season, just to be almost top 10 every single week, just strategy wise and good communication with my teammates. And, yeah, I'm just going to be taking next season like a new season, trying to forget the past. And, I'll be defending my title, but just every season's different. People start racing different. People have different strategies. People start working with different people. New teammates get formed. New teams get formed. So You got to take it one race at a time. And yeah, you got to give credit to Brian Schilling. He's a great driver, and I'm hoping he can come back one day and race with us. I liked his competition. Me and him had some great battles, so hopefully he can come back. But yeah, it's crazy to be the first time to do that in a little while. Thanks, guys.
For sure, Joe. And once again, congratulations on championship number 2 here with the Tally Challenge series here at RTG. I'm sure you've got some people, some sponsors, and some shout outs that you'd like to make.
Gotta thank my guys, APW Racing, Mobs Motors, Bob Seminara, Bernie Mobs, always there to help me. There's a lot of guys on the track that are always right there, willing to push me when I need it. There's a lot of great pushers out there. Got to thank everybody at home watching. My Uncle Travis. Got to thank the guys at the post office watching me. Got to thank you guys, FRN. I appreciate you guys coming back next season. I'm glad to have you guys. Got to thank RTG, Josh, doing a great job. Tally Challenge, great series, best series out there. And I want to wish a happy birthday to my girlfriend. Her birthday's tomorrow. So I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for everything.
Well, that is Joe Dispirito. 6th place finish here tonight clinches him back-to-back championships in the RTG Talladega Challenge. Congratulations, Joe. And since Zach's already jinxed it, I'll just say best of luck to you next year and trying to bid in 3 for 3.
Thanks, guys. Good night.
Well, to kind of echo what race winner John Godfrey said, I mean, I'm ready to go for next season. There's a lot of storylines heading into the fresh season 52 for sure. Dispirito with back-to-back championships. We'd love to see, if he can indeed go 3 for 3 and break the record, which currently is now held by himself and Brian Schilling as back-to-back champions. Of course, as well, trying to tie his teammate Bob Seminara as a 3-time winner. But some of the other storylines I'm looking at going into the next season as well, Zach. You got your top 5 finishers here tonight: Godfrey, Elliott, Harris, Sullins, and Miller. Their best finishes of the season. Does this momentum carry them over to be able to find victory lane next year, maybe be up inside of our playoff contenders? And, there's some guys that were really strong here this season that came in around the midway point of the regular season, weren't able to accumulate enough points to get into the playoffs, like Jeremy Jeffries and Tim Knopfsker. If they make the full season next year, what does the landscape of our season 52 playoffs look like?
Well, I think once we wipe the slate clean on season 51 and head into season number 52, obviously you have a few competitors like the ones that you just mentioned, which are absolutely looking to keep that momentum going into season number 52. And just to note, again, not to jinx Joe Dispirito at all, because, I've got to say, Seth, Joe Dispirito put on such an impressive season. As he mentioned, that is very potentially a once-in-a-career sort of season that he was able to put together this year. It was just so strong and so dominant, but everything could change with season number 52. You got a lot of different contenders in play, and so as Kevin Harvick put it about Jimmy Johnson a few years back, this year the 24 team just had that golden horseshoe, and we know things don't tend to stay like that forever, Seth. So I'm really intrigued to see how that might shift and reset as we head toward next year.
Especially when it's at a super speedway of all places that they go to week after week. But man, we knew coming into tonight it was going to be a good one. We didn't know who the champion was going to be. We didn't know if maybe the champion was going to be the race winner, like the scenario we had last season with Dispirito winning both. At the end of the night, John Godfrey's the one doing burnouts with the race win. Joe Dispirito is the one doing the burnouts for the championship. You couldn't have asked for a better season finale. Talladega doesn't seem to disappoint, whether it's the first race, midway portion, beginning of the playoffs, or the season finale. And it's been a great season overall. And Zach, I appreciate you joining me for every lap of it.
Well, Seth, I really appreciate you guys giving me this opportunity to do so for Rolling Thunder Gaming. As it started out as a favor to these guys, but this has been so much fun. I really appreciate you. I appreciate Matt, everybody behind the scenes at FRN, all the drivers, owners, admins over at RTG. It's been a pleasure being able to do this alongside all of you. I really appreciate it. Really looking forward to coming back on board for season number 52. Seth, I can't wait. Thank you so much. And of course, race fans watching at home, We hope that you have seen an absolutely incredible season number 51, and I look forward to talking to you as well with season 52. Thanks, Seth.
Oh, without a doubt, right back at you. Thank you. It's been a tremendous season. And again, just to echo you, yes, thank you to everybody that's tuned in, not only here tonight, but during the course of the season. As mentioned, FRN has the call for season 52 for the Talladega Challenge, as we're going to find out if Joe Dispirito can defend his title one more time. For Zach Fremont, I'm Seth Cole. Hope the rest of you enjoy what's left of your Thursday evening. You've been watching another broadcast tonight, courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.